Looking back on it, the early 2000s was a great time to be a Batman fan. Not only did we have the best silver screen Batman adaptation with Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, but there was no shortage of Batman cartoons either. From the futuristic streets of Gotham and Batman Beyond, to the Joker's ashy fucking feet in the Batman, we never went too long without a new iteration of the Caped Crusader to watch on Saturday mornings. So in a time when Cartoon Network is circling the drain, and Warner Brothers is writing off more movies and shows than it's releasing, I think it'd be fun to revisit a Batman series that doesn't get talked about enough, and Batman the Brave and the Bold. Okay, for the uninitiated, Batman the Brave and the Bold ran from 2008 to 2011 on Cartoon Network. And the main thing you gotta know is this is the chill Batman show.
So, somebody jacked my ride, so I had to hoof it all the way back here. You hungry? I got the munchies, something fierce.
Okay, maybe not that chill, but rather, The Brave and the Bold separates itself from other Batman series by taking influence from the often overlooked Silver Age run of the Caped Crusader. These fantastical Silver Age stories introduced younger fans to a Batman of a bygone era with a campier, more lighthearted take on the Dark Knight, not seen since Adam West wore the cowl. So today, I'm going to go over a series of loosely related points about Batman the Brave and the Bold and call it a video essay. Real quick, be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. While Batman is often defined by his villains, in The Brave and the Bold, Batman is defined by his allies. See, a typical episode of The Brave and the Bold goes something like this. Batman teams up with another DC superhero of varying popularity to thwart the villain of the week's plan, which is usually something basic like robbing banks or world domination.
Diabolical. With the contents of that ocean lab, Grodd can create a device that turns humans into bananas.
Did this give some episodes' plot a paint-by-numbers feeling? Yes. Did it feel played out by the final season? Yes. But when the formula would hit, it would hit. And no other character made the formula hit quite like Aquaman. While he's not the laughingstock he used to be...
Aquaman, help!
Hey, let her go.
Or what?
Or, I don't know, man, but you're lucky you're not doing that over here.
Even after a successful live-action movie, Aquaman is still kind of a joke. The truth of the matter being, the average person thinks Aquaman is low-key just a freaky fish guy. However, The Brave and the Bold not only fixed Aquaman, but gave us a breakout fan-favorite take on the character. Thanks to the lighter tone of the series and stellar performance by John DiMaggio, Aquaman is typically the best thing about any episode he's in.
Oh, I read about it in Aquaman's latest memoir, the one where Batman almost died.
So much so that he appears in, or is mentioned in, over a third of the series. But the show did more than just revitalize mainstream heroes. It also served as an introduction to many lesser-known DC characters like Red Tornado, Plastic Man, and Blue Beetle. Now, when I said this Batman was defined by his allies, nothing conveys that more than his team-ups with Blue Beetle. As the inaugural pairing in the pilot Rise of the Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes became a mainstay of the series, and was the go-to character when the writers wanted to put Batman in a mentor position.
Dude, how long have you been there?
Whoa, geek detector's off the charts.
While Batman being a mentor isn't groundbreaking because duh, Robin exists, it is refreshing to see Batman mentor a kid he didn't have to indoctrinate into wearing green tights. Jokes aside, that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. Too often do we see writers have Batman play off the same group of people like Robin or Commissioner Gordon. While yeah, it makes sense to have Batman interact with Batman characters, The Brave and the Bold would make played-out character arcs for the Dark Knight feel fresh again by having Batman experience this development with someone who's not in the Bat family. Real quick, I know I just raved about how epic these team-ups are, but the hater in me does sometimes wonder if Batman always has the best hero for the job. Like, there's one episode where Batman and Green Arrow have a space battle with pirates, and I just don't feel like Green Arrow's in the space battle genre. I'm curious if Batman meant to call Green Lantern, but hit Oliver Queen's line by mistake.
Batman, the Brave and the Bold! Gorilla Grodd attacks Batman! Get the transforming Batmobile into action! Watch out for the cliff! Transform into Batjets, launch your missiles, and take Gorilla Grodd down! Batman, the Brave and the Bold transforming Batmobile and action figures, each sold separately!
Okay, remember when I brought up the Silver Age of comics? Well, for those of you watching who have no problem talking to women, The Silver Age refers to comics published from 1956 to 1970. This era saw a resurgence of superhero comics and was defined by stories that had more sci-fi elements than what was published in the decades prior. The primary driving factor in this tonal shift in comics, from the more explicit crime and romance pulp fictions from the previous decade, was the influence of the newly formed Comics Code Authority. It was under the editorial tyranny of the CCA that we saw the introduction of essential superhero tropes, like the idea of parallel Earths. We also saw many ideas introduced that DC would spend the coming decades trying to sweep under the rug, like Batmite or Batman Zur-En-Raw. However, The Brave and the Bold throws out the rug and embraces the camp and wackiness of this era with open arms. While DC's writers have jumped through hoops to try and reimagine Zur-En-Raw as a failsafe personality buried in Batman's psyche, The Brave and the Bold has Batman get sucked through a wormhole and end up on a planet with an alternate version of himself, and he just rolls with it. Also, bonus points for having Kevin Conroy voice Batman Zur-En-Raw.
Then welcome to the planet Zur-En-R. Here, I'm Batman.
Another great example of this show's love for the source material is in the episode Battle of the Superheroes. In this episode, Superman gets exposed to red kryptonite and starts acting like a real jerk.
Superman's turned into a real different person.
So, just a quick factoid about the Man of Steel, but back in the 50s, they would always give Superman comics a cover with Superman doing something out of pocket as a sort of analog clickbait maneuver to get people to buy the book. So during this episode, we get callbacks to all those old school covers, and it's just really fun to see the last son of Krypton act like the pettiest dude alive. The writers even managed to give us 4 Batmite episodes, which is a fat fucking dub in my book, but we'll get to those Batmite episodes in a minute. Even though this is a show about a Silver Age Batman that didn't pigeonhole the writers to just that era of comics, one of my favorite elements in The Brave and the Bold is seeing more modern aspects of the Batman mythos reimagined for this Silver Age setting. To circle back to the Battle of the Superheroes, that episode ends with Batman pulling up to Metropolis to throw down Dark Knight Returns style. They even managed to do a Damian Wayne episode. What I like most about their approach is how the writers made Damian's origin more Silver Age by no longer having him be born out of wedlock. So that's pretty cool. Now, I realize I've been ranting and raving about how the show is all the better for embracing its Silver Age roots, but there's an elephant in the room that needs to be addressed. Season 2, Episode 11, Chill of the Night. This episode sees the Spectre and the Phantom Stranger, voiced by Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy respectively, follow Batman as he tracks down the man who murdered his parents, Joe Chill. Right off the bat, you'll notice this episode feels different from the rest of the series. It's darker, it's edgier, it even has Batman switch up the fit for no reason other than it's time to stand on business. In many ways, this episode feels more akin to a Bronze Age story or an episode of Batman the Animated Series than any Silver Age adventure the Caped Crusader ever had. Despite the show finding success and being known for its lighter take on Batman, the darkest episode of the series also ended up being the highest rated. I'm sure the fact this episode was written by the GOAT Paul Dini didn't hurt, but I think it shows that while audiences enjoyed this take on the Dark Knight, at the end of the day, people prefer their Batman brooding.
When it's time to battle crime, be the totally awesome Caped Crusader. You want gadgets? You got tons of them. So drop in and kick some major bad guy butt. Batman, the Brave and the Bold, the video game. In stores now. Rated everyone 10 and up.
Okay, remember when I brought up Batmite from earlier? Well, Mitefall is the final episode of the series, and is probably one of my favorite final episodes ever. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the episode, because I think it's worth watching yourself, but the gist of it is that Batmite has grown bored of the Brave and the Bold, and tries to get the show cancelled so it can be replaced by a newer, darker take on the Caped Crusader. In an era where shows get axed before the second episode even airs, it's refreshing to see a writing team have the opportunity to go out on their own terms. Also, I think the episode premise is pretty creative, and they kinda went no filter with it, not gonna lie.
Let's see how you like the Dark Knight in another one of those hideous variant Batman costumes you only find on store shelves.
Alpine ice climber Batman? How could you?
And that's just the beginning.
And the Rat Party ambush Bug throws at the end is pretty awesome, and feels like a great send-off to Diedrich Bader's take on the Dark Knight. Melancholy moments aside, When you take a step back and look at the series episode list, you'll notice Season 3 only has 13 episodes compared to the other season's 26. I read online that the only reason the show got a third season was because the toy companies were willing to foot the bill. How true that is, I'm not sure. But what we can say for sure is by the time Season 3 came out, audiences had more or less had their fill of Batman the Brave and the Bold. Which is fine. Too often, I feel like people will find some old cartoon to yap about and start spewing platitudes on how it's peak fiction and needs a reboot immediately. And if we're being real, Batman the Brave and the Bold isn't that show. Not to say you shouldn't watch it, you definitely should. The truth is, nothing good lasts forever. And with 64 episodes and an ending that goes out on its own terms, that's more than a lot of great shows get.
At least you can say you had a good run.
A great run.
Yes, I did it! A darker Batman series is on the way!
It is worth noting that the darker follow-up series, Beware the Batman, was not a success. It's definitely too much to get into at the tail end of this video, but its failure did result in a hiatus on solo Batman cartoons that lasted until 2024's Batman the Caped Crusader, released on Prime. So while The Brave and the Bold may not have given us a Batman for all seasons, it gave us a Batman we hadn't seen in many decades, and to be frank, a Batman I don't know when we'll see again. So that was Batman the Brave and the Bold. I didn't know this until after I finished the script, but The Brave and the Bold received a direct-to-DVD crossover with Scooby-Doo in 2018, so I guess the answer to that question I asked at the end of the last section was about 7 years. Fingers crossed James Gunn takes some cues from The Brave and the Bold for his DCEU take on The Dark Knight. Also, I should have brought this up earlier, but if you only watch one episode of the show, watch the one with Music Meister. He's voiced by Neil Patrick Harris, and it's overall really fun. Anyway, let me know your favorite Batman thing in the comments below. See you on the next Randograph.